Hello to all grade 11 students. Welcome to the first lesson of your general mathematics. This lesson will give you the practical application of functions in a real-life scenario, including the piecewise function. When you're in grade 8, you already encountered relation and function. But in this lesson, let's take into a deeper sense on how this topic can be useful in our daily life. So after going through this lesson, you are expected to recall the concepts of relations and functions. Define and explain functional relationship as a mathematical model of situation. Represent real-life situations using functions including piecewise function. Before we proceed in presenting real-life scenario using function, what have you learned or what have you remembered about relations and functions? So by definition, relation is a set of ordered pairs. The set of all first elements of the ordered pairs is called the domain of the relation, and the set of all the second elements is the range. Let's have this example. These are the relations x, g, h, and y. The set of ordered pairs consists of the following. Sabi natin kanina sa definition, the set of all first elements of the ordered pairs is called the domain. So, ito yun lahat sila. And the set of all second elements is called the range. Okay, so yung mga naka-encircled numbers, yun ang domain. At ang mga naka-underlined naman ay yun ang tinatawag natin na range. Let's proceed. By definition, function is a relation or rule of correspondence between two elements, domain and range, such that each element in the domain corresponds to exactly one element in the range. It relates an input to an output. It's like a machine that has an input and an output. So f of x equals is the classic way of writing a function. This is f of x equals x squared. F of x shows us the function is called f and x goes in. So f of x equals x squared shows us that function f takes x and squares it. Let us remember that the x is just a placeholder. F of x equals 1 minus x plus x squared is the same function as f of q equals 1 minus q plus q squared, and h of a equals 1 minus a plus a squared. So the variable x, q, a is just there, so we will know where to put the values. Let's have this example. So this diagram is a function because every element in x is related to y. No element in x has two or more relationships, so it follows the rules. Ngayon, sabihin natin kung ang mga sumusunod na diagram ba ay function o hindi function. So let's have this diagram. Ito ay not a function because one-to-many is not allowed, but many-to-one is allowed. Okay? So, this is not allowed. One-to-many is not okay in a function, but many-to-one is okay in a function. When a relationship does not follow these two rules, then it's not a function. It's still a relationship, just not a function. Ngayon, balikan natin ulit yung ating diagram. This is a relationship, but it's not a function. For these reasons, value 3 in x has no relation in y. Value 4 in x has no relation in y. And value 5 is related to more than one value in y. But the fact that 6 in y has no relationship does not matter. Now let's have this diagram. Okay, function or not function? Okay, this is a function because every element in x is related to y. No element in x has two or more relationships, so it follows the rule. Let's proceed. It could also be written as a table para makita natin yung relationship ni x kay y or ng domain kay range or ng input kay output. Dito ang ginawa natin para makuha yung values ng range or ng output or ng y. We multiplied the values of domain by itself. So, 3 times 3 is 9, 1 times 1 is 1, 0 times 0 is 0, 4 times 4 is 16, negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. So notice how both 4 and negative 4 relate to 16, which is allowed. So, given the following ordered pairs, which relations are functions? Okay. The relations A and B are functions because each element in the domain corresponds to a unique element in the range. Relations C and D are not functions because they contain ordered pairs with the same domain, and that is 0, 1, and 0, and negative 1. Then AB and AD. How about from the given table of values, which relation shows function? Okay, first table and second table are functions since all the values of x corresponds to exactly one value of y. Unlike table 3, where negative 1 corresponds to two values, and that is 4 and 1. And as we have learned, 1 to many is not okay. We can also identify a function given a diagram and the following mapping diagrams. Which do you think represent functions? Okay, very good. The relations A and C are functions because each element in the domain corresponds to a unique element in the range. However, B is more relation and not a function because there's a domain which corresponds to more than one range. So, those are functions and relations. Let's proceed to vertical line test. A relation between two sets of numbers can be illustrated by graph in the Cartesian plane, and that a function passes the vertical line test. A graph of a relation is a function if any vertical line drawn passing through the graph intersects it at exactly one point. This means that on a graph, the idea of a single valued means that no vertical line ever crosses more than one value. If it crosses more than once, it's still a valid curve, but it's not already a function. So using the vertical line test, can you identify the graph or the graphs of function? Mag-draw ng vertical line para matest natin kung ang bawat graph ba ay papasa sa vertical line test. So, nakikita nyo na ba kung ano ang mga tamang sagot? Okay. So, as we can see, letter A, 1 point lang nag-intersect. And then sa letter C, letter B, hindi kasi makikita natin 2 points yung intersections. At letter D, 2 points din. So, the correct answer, letters A and C are graphs of functions, while B and D are not because they don't pass the vertical line test. Okay, functions can often be used to model real-life situations. Identifying an appropriate functional model will lead to a better understanding of various phenomena. Let's have now the examples of the function as representations of real-life situations. Let's have number 1. Give a function C that can represent the cost of buying X meals if one meal costs 40 pesos. For our solution, since each meal costs 40 pesos, then the cost function is C of X equals 40X. Another example, give a function B that can represent the amount of battery charge of a cellular phone in each hour if 12% of battery was lost every hour. For our solution, since every hour loses 12% of the battery, then the amount of battery function is B of H equals 100 minus 0.12H. For the last example of function as representations of real-life situations, let's have this. Squares of side X are cut from each corner of a 10 in X 8 in rectangle so that the sides can be folded to make a box with no top. Define a function in terms of A or in terms of X that can represent the volume of the box. So let's have the solution. The length and width of the box are 10 minus 2x and 8 minus 2x respectively. Its height is x. Thus, the volume of the box can be represented by the function v of x equals 10 minus 2x times 8 minus 2x times x equals 80x minus 36x squared plus 4x cubed. So, paano natin nakuha yung sagot na ito? So, first we distributed the x through the parentheses, then we multiply using the FOIL method. 10x times 8 equals 80x. 10x times negative 2x equals negative 20x squared. Negative 2x squared times 8 equals negative 16x squared. Negative 2x squared times negative 2x equals 4x cubed. And then, combine like terms. So, ang like terms dito ay 20x squared, negative 20x squared, and negative 16x squared. That is equal to 36x squared. Kaya nakuha natin yung sagot natin na 80x minus 36x squared plus 4x cubed. Okay? So, there are functions that requires more than one formula in order to obtain the given output. There are instances that we need to describe situations in which a rule or relationship changes as the input value crosses certain boundaries. So, in this case, we need to apply what? Piecewise functions. So, by definition, a piecewise function is a function in which more than one formula is used to define the output. Each formula has its own domain. And the domain of the function is the union of all these smaller domains. So let's have these examples. When x is less than 2, it gives x squared. When x is exactly 2, it gives 6. When x is more than 2 and less than or equal to 6, it gives the line 10 minus x. And it looks like this. A solid dot means including, an open dot means not including. And this is how we write it. This means that the domain, which is all the values that can go into the function, is all real numbers up to and including 6, which can be write like this. Domain of f equals negative infinity to 6 using interval notation. And domain of f equals x is an element of all set of all real numbers such that x is less than or equal to 6 using set builder notation. Here is another piecewise function which look like this graph. Okay, what is h of negative 1? Greater x or greater than x is less than or equal to 1. So we use h of x equals 2. So h of negative 1 is equals to 2. Next, what is h of 1? Greater than x is less than or equal to 1. So we use h of x equals to 2. So h of 1 equals 2. What is h of 4? Greater than x is greater than 1. So we use h of x. h of x equals x. So h of 4 is equals to 4. So let's have the last example of piecewise functions. A doctor's fee is based on the length of time. Up to 60 minutes costs 50. Over 60 and up to 15 minutes costs 80. Over 15 minutes costs 80 plus or cost 80 plus 5 per minute above 15 minutes. And it can be written like this. So if you visit the doctor for 12 minutes, what is the fee? That's 80. How about for 20 minutes? What is the fee? So 80 plus 5 times 20 minus 15 is equal to 105. So again, in this lesson, you have learned about relations, functions, function as representations of real-life situations, and piecewise functions. So thank you for watching and listening. Magkita-kita tayong muli sa ating susunod na lesson. Bye-bye!